Well, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Film Mandate. And in this episode, Alan Cummins has said it is healing, having wrapped the shooting on the project of the X-Men and the Avengers Doomsday. And this is something that he's excited about, comparing it to the X2, which was shot in 2003. And then also, Legendary Pictures is in talks with the newly owned Skydance legacy studio Paramount to secure a potential co-financing and co-distribution deal. And last but not the least, one of Africa's finest actors, Adjetey Anang, has hopes that Ghana film industry, that is the Black Star films, would be able to bounce back to the golden era of filmmaking. These and more is what we'll be talking about here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. And thanks for being patient with me and for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. I must sincerely apologize that when I started, my sound wasn't just working. So if you were with me from the very beginning, you could see me flipping the graphics card back to me to just see what's wrong. But finally, it has been resolved, and I sincerely apologize for this technical hitch. So we'll be delving into the very first story, and for those who have enjoyed the X-Men films, particularly X2, the X2, one of the greatest openings of any movie at all, particularly for the comic book superhero films, is that of X-Men 2, where the X-Men stand or stood united against a government that was lashing out against, the X people or the X-Men with the X mutant gene. And one of the highlights of that film is the performance of Cumming as Wagner, who was a Nightcrawler and did, go to send a warning or attack people in the X-Men universe White House, and was able to successfully get to the president. And that is quite an interesting story. Now, now in 2025, when we happen to watch the Chair Watch, where Disney and Marvel reveal the names of those who will be partaking or reprising their roles for this Avengers particular film, the Avengers Doomsday. One of the names that showed up was Alan Cummins, and he happened to have wrapped up production as we speak, and he did come to say something about this particular production that he found himself on. And this article is actually published in the Hollywood Reporter, and this is what he had to say. Alan Cumming talks really healing experience reprising Nightcrawler in Avengers Doomsday after X2. The actor called the 2003 X-Men sequel a terrible experience. And this is written by Carly Thomas. Yeah, this is written by Carly Thomas. And it says that the Traitors host has previously been open about why it was so. Oh, pardon me, let me start from here. Alan Cumming is opening up about how playing Nightcrawler in Avengers Doomsday was actually really healing after his terrible experience in 2003's X2 X-Men United. The actor recently told people at the Televerse 2025 conference that he just finished filming the Russo Brothers' highly anticipated Doomsday film, which is set to hit theaters in May 2026. I just came back. It was amazing. It was really, actually, really, in a sort of ooey gooey way, It was really healing and really nice to go back to something that was a terrible experience when I did it the first time. Cumming said, a great film, great film. I love the film. The Traitors host has previously been open about why it was so miserable to make the 2003 X-Men sequel, including the challenges of spending like 4.5 to 5 hours in makeup each day to transform into the blue-skinned mutant, as well as difficulties with director Bryan Singer. However, he said it was actually really great to go back for Doomsday as it was much more positive this time around. And especially, I'm 60 years old. I did not think I would be doing stunts playing a superhero in my 60s. So that was great, he said. And everyone was really nice. And I got it done really quickly because I couldn't go because of the traitors when most of my scenes were being shot. So I squashed them all together and got a green screen and various things and little scenes of people here and there. But it was pretty stealthy. While details surrounding the Phase 6 installments of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are being kept under wraps, Cumming previously teased that his Nightcrawler may have a fight scene with Pedro Pascal's Mr. Fantastic. And yeah, the Avengers Doomsday cast also includes, all these names written in the article here. So it is indeed exciting to hear Alan Cummings having wrapped up filming, and not just that, but the good thing is that he enjoyed his time spent on set. And the reason I'm saying this, just as the article did say, he had quite an unfortunate experience whilst filming X2 way back in 2003. And that involved Bryan Singer, the director of the film. The very details of it, I'm not really privy to, but what I've read was that he really didn't have the best of experience. And that can be very tragic and very tough on actors because one of the things that actors end up experiencing is that whilst being filmed by any filmmaker whatsoever, they end up feeling vulnerable. I am not an actor, I must admit, but I've actually acted in a couple of productions, and I can say that it can feel very vulnerable when you are placed in front of the camera, especially when you have certain anxieties as to how you look, whether you are delivering to the expectations of your fans, of the director and producer. So you can feel very vulnerable. So I can't imagine feeling very, very vulnerable in the hands of a director or, in front of the camera, and it will be, bogged down more with challenges found on set. Aside that, he had to spend 4.5 hours to 5 hours to be in front of the camera. Wow, I mean, to get made up, in terms of the prosthetics, before he goes on to set to shoot. And he did recount how terrible of an experience it was while shooting the film. And so it is sometimes very, I wish I could tell him in person that, sorry for the experiences that you found yourself going through, that time. And for most of us who were just watching it on the screen, especially when it premiered and afterwards, we enjoyed the opening scene so well, not knowing what he was going through. So Alan Cumming, wherever you are, we would say we are sorry for what you have gone through, but also thanks for delivering such a stellar performance and making the X2 movie quite an experience that we will never forget. But one of the things I'm excited about is that a different environment created the ability for him to find the healing that he needed, because that can be a big blow to any actor, and in the long term may actually cripple their confidence to appear in front of the camera again. And if you read other articles, it did say that at a certain point in time, he wrote off completely blockbusters, wouldn't want to star in any of them because of the experiences he faced, and the fact that even the studio weren't willing, or the leaders of the studio at the time, that is 20th Century Fox, weren't willing to do anything about it, and that was really sad. And even he had his co-stars stepping in to help stop, I mean, to help prevent the kind of treatment and things he was going through, and yet things didn't augur well. But however, I'm excited about this because finally he has shot his film. And it looks like because of his engagements, otherwhere, particularly as the host of the Traitors, he couldn't go on set to shoot together with his colleagues that he shot with in the X2. But regardless, because of the advent of technology and green screen and all that, he shot, just as he said, he compressed all his screen time, got it shot, and then went back to his other schedules. And I think it's quite interesting and fascinating to know that he has wrapped filming. And unfortunately, but maybe for us as fans, he did state that he did leak it in one of the interviews that I watched, particularly when he was the host of, I think, one of the late night show. Pedro Pascal teased him that he did leak that information with regards to a performance, including both of their characters. And as you know, the Fantastic Four will be showing up in the Avengers Doomsday. And he did say that, just as the article did even highlight, that there was a sequence or a scene, there's going to be a scene where he's going to have a little, I don't know whether it's actual fight or squabble with Mr. Fantastic himself. So that is quite interesting to know, a little peek into what is happening. And as it stands now, it looks like Pedro Pascal himself has also wrapped filming. So obviously, I'm sure they still have a long way to go because Avengers Doomsday will be coming sometime next year, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still a lot of work to be done on the production, and I think they are still filming. Filming is not wrapped yet, but it is exciting to know that having the Nightcrawler, that I think he teleports, show up in this particular X-Men, it's exciting. And I think on a very good note for even the actors involved who are reprising their role from the X-Men franchise when it was formerly 20th Century Fox, I think this will bring a proper closure for the roles that they played, and it is exciting. And I think Kevin Feige said that with the production of Deadpool and Wolverine, both its success and how the story played out, it did affirm what they wanted to do with Avengers Doomsday and gave them the confidence to be able to reprise the role and create a proper, send-off or ending for all these characters. And that is quite an interesting development. And for me, I'm excited to have the Nightcrawler in the Wagner, whose performance in X2 is one of the highlights of the film. As a matter of fact, that particular performance is one of the best openings ever. I might even say, even than any other Marvel films we've seen, because that performance was exceptional. Was so exceptional. I don't know about you, but let me know what you think about Alan Cumming finding healing in this new production. And I must say, having had the opportunity to also direct a couple of smaller audiovisual productions, indeed, as a leader or a director of a production, you and together with the key people, you are the people who can create the enabling environment for actors to feel safe and be able to give off their best. And I'm happy that he found that with the Russos and Kevin Feige on set. Let me know what you think about this development, him wrapping up filming, and the fact that he found the healing, and he seems very happy about the fact that he found this, had the opportunity to play stunts again now that he's in his 60s, a thing that he never ever dreamt will ever happen, and finally has happened. So whatever your thoughts may be on this development, kindly leave it in the comment section down below. So moving on from this particular story to the next. Quite recently, I think as early as August 7th, Skydance finally had the full reins over Paramount, a legacy company that previously they were in partnership with in a deal of co-financing and distribution of their films. Now the head of Skydance has now taken fully the reins as CEO and chairman of Paramount. And in that case, they are actually looking recently. They did have a time with the press where David Ellison and his entourage and his co-executives were unveiling their plans to the public via the media people who were present. And they did state that they want to be able to expand their roster of films, which is currently, I think, getting into 2026. It's around six films plus another possibly three, so a total of 9. They want to expand it from that to 15 to possibly 20. And it looks like one of the possible ways that they can get that done is by co-partnering or partnering with other companies. And one of such companies who has been very successful in this field is Legendary Pictures, having ended their partnership with Sony. Legendary Pictures is looking for a place to, partner and have its films distributed. And this have been published in the Variety article, and it reads that Legendary in early talks with Paramount for film distribution, and this is written by Rebecca Rubin and Brent Lang. And there in your picture is a screenshot from the film Minecraft, which they partnered with Warner Brothers to have it financed and distributed. So Legendary Entertainment is in early talks to partner with Paramount on the theatrical distribution of its films. Of its films. The production company behind a Minecraft movie and Dune had been under contract at Sony Pictures after cutting ties with Warner Brothers in 2022. However, the multi-year deal at Sony expired at the end of 2024 and wasn't renewed. Legendary has also worked with Netflix and Universal on various projects. Although the new agreement with Paramount hasn't been signed and negotiations are ongoing, certain projects like upcoming Dune sequels and Godzilla or Kong entries in the Monsterverse franchise would be exempt, staying at Warner Brothers due to a prior pact. The talks come after Legendary's recent box office hot streak with last year's Dune Part 2 and this year's mega hit, a Minecraft movie, which earned $714 million and $955 million, respectively, at a global box office. Meanwhile, Paramount has been on a deal-making spree after closing its $8 billion merger with Skydance. David Ellison, the company's chairman and CEO, and his newly assembled team have recently lured the Duffer Brothers, best known for creating Stranger Things from Netflix, and won a bidding war for the high side, a buzzed about feature package that will reunite a complete unknown filmmaker, James Mangold, with Timothy Chalamet. Ellison brought in George Greenstein, the president of Sony Pictures, and Dana Goldberg, chief creative officer at Skydance, to help revitalize the studio. Looking ahead, Legendary will release an all-titled film from director Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu and star Tom Cruise, as well as Dune Part 3, which began production last month. It's unclear which projects Legendary will partner with Paramount on, since Warner Brothers is distributor on those aforementioned movies. But the production company has several films in development, including an adaptation of the video game Duke Nukem and card game Magic the Gathering. So yeah, that is quite an interesting development that we have found recently. And when you read other articles, it looks like prior to this discovery that we have made, these talks began way back in spring of I think last year, prior to even Skydance finally taking over from taking over the company Paramount. And it looks like it is actually a good thing for Paramount as they are looking to expand their roster of films to 15 and 20. So obviously, it looks like they have come at such a right time to help them achieve their dream of this number of films that they are looking at producing. And one of the things that you cannot take from Legendary is how successful they have been in regards to their franchises. For every one of the companies that they have teamed up with, be it Universal, Netflix, I mean, well, Netflix, we can take that out. But in terms of Universal, Netflix, and sorry, Universal, Universal, Warner Brothers, they have successfully, churned out very good productions for them, and that has really been of a good benefit to those companies they partnered with. You can look at, when you go to Box Office Mojo, you can look at a number of films that they've done. Currently, Jurassic World is one of the highest grossing films in this particular year. And when you talk about the Hollywood films, and that is for Universal, and they were involved in the film production of the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. They've done Interstellar. They also helped bankroll Man of Steel. So they've done quite some successful projects. So, and I think they clearly understand what the market needs. If you look at a number of the films that they have done, whether successful or not, they've been able to successfully make such great films with with powerful filmmakers. They've worked with Christopher Nolan, they've worked with Zack Snyder, they've worked with a host of other filmmakers, and they have been very successful at that. So obviously they know what they're about, and I'm sure for the conversation of the deal making to have continued from the previous regime to now the David Ellison regime, I'm sure they know how much Legendary is worth in terms of what they bring on board. And therefore, I think it's actually a good thing. Unfortunately, they had a wonderful union with Warner Brothers till, I think, the previous head, I think Stanky, or I'm not so familiar with it. I've forgotten about the name, but the then head of Warner Brothers, group went about instituting a day and date release where both around the pandemic era, where movies when released in the cinemas are actually also released on the streaming service HBO Max at the same time. So this led to them falling out with them, particularly when the prior agreement between Legendary and Warner Brothers was to keep the movies in cinemas first, and after they are done, it can be released on whatever platform it is. But unfortunately, that didn't go well with Legendary, since Warner Brothers ignored their calls and released a slew of films on a day and date release. And with that was also what caused Christopher Nolan to abandon the ship of Warner Brothers and go somewhere else to do his movie. So unfortunately, Warner Brothers shot themselves in the foot because they had a great partner in Legendary. And it was quite unfortunate that with David Zaslav coming back, he tried reaching out to all the filmmakers that Warner Brothers has previously lost. But unfortunately, due to new contracts that exist, Legendary never returned. And because at the time, Legendary had a deal with Sony, which just elapsed December of 2024. So with the new developments happening, with the new leadership of Skydance, obviously, if you have this freedom, you would want to go to the new studio who has new things in place. And if you look at also the success of Skydance, David Ellison's company, Skydance, they have successfully achieved wonderful, projects with Tom Cruise in his Mission Impossible films, and they themselves did do well with Top Gun Maverick. So they are almost in the same business, because Skydance literally was almost on the same level as Legendary till now that they have acquired Paramount, and now David Ellison happens to be the head of Paramount. And it is exciting because I'm sure David Ellison and his team knows what Legendary is capable of, and regardless of the fact that the contract or the deal hasn't gone through yet, the conversations are still ongoing, and both parties have refused to comment at the moment. But it looks like it's a no-brainer that the deal will go on, and then finally Legendary will have a new home with regards to co-financing and distribution for their slew of films. So it is really interesting to see how these negotiations are ongoing, and it's been happening for months. And I'm sure it's stalled because the leadership of Paramount was changing hands, and therefore it had to take this long. But I'm sure before the year runs to an end, we'll get to know that finally Legendary has sealed the deal with the Skydance owned Paramount for them to start making movies once again. However, just as it's seen in the article, the films with Warner Brothers will still stay there. You know, the MonsterVerse films in terms of Godzilla and Kong, and as well as Dune would stay with Warner Brothers. However, as it stands now, because the deal hasn't gone through, we do not know which films that Legendary will be producing under the banner of Warner Brothers, so Paramount. So it will be quite interesting to see what kind of projects they'll be developing with Paramount, seeing that one of their biggest biggest films lies with Universal. With Universal, you have the Jurassic World franchise, and with also Warner Brothers, you have the Kong or the MonsterVerse, together with also the Dune, series, the series of films. So it'll be quite interesting to see. But however, we'll be waiting to have any news when they finally seal the pact. And let me know what you think about Legendary's deal with Paramount to secure a deal with them. What do you think? Do you think that's the best, partnership they should go with? Do you think that Paramount should be considering them, seeing that they are starting anew? Well, whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave them in the comment section below. And moving on from Hollywood to Ghana, one of the finest and prolific actors in not just Ghana but Africa is Adjetey Anang, and one of his iconic roles that he played that stayed with most of us who grew up in the 90s was Pusha in a TV series called Things We Do for Love. And as it stands today, particularly the generation that grew up from that era can attest to the fact that that role was so iconic that we never forget what he did, especially for the memories for our childhood and all that. And not just that, but he did reprise his role again in a spin-off series from the Things We Do for Love called YOLO, and he did star in that as well. But going forward, he's done a couple of films, fantastic films, from A Sting in a Tail to Gold Coast Lounge, and he's won several awards. Well, there's been the conversation severally as to whether the Ghana film industry is doing well or not. And well, as to the number of outputs and sometimes the almost a non-existent box office, he has also weighed in the conversation as to the state of the film industry. And this is captured in the article published on Ghana Web. And he says that we have the talent and content to succeed. Adjetey Anang on Ghana's movie industry. I read, Ghanaian actor Adjetey Anang has indicated that Ghana's movie industry is a flame that has dimmed but not gone out. He has asserted that the glory days of Ghana's movie industry can return because the country still has a lot of untapped talents and content to make the industry thrive. We have the gift and talent and the content necessary to succeed. We need to show the outside world that we have valuable content. While capital is important, a strong storyline can still carry a film even if we don't have huge financial backing, Adjetey Anang said. Our efforts in the theater arts industry are bearing fruit now, Adjetey Anang. We believe the industry is still alive. Pardon me. So that line has to do with another topic that he discussed when he was interviewed. But he's also a stage actor. So for those who may not be aware, he's also a stage actor. I read on. He believes the industry is still alive, but it's just going through a rough patch. He compared to the golden days when movie releases were happening regularly. Speaking in a video shared by Asasipa FM on Facebook on August 18th, the veteran actor painted a vivid picture of what has changed over the years. He recalled a time in the history of Ghana's movie industry when as many as 50 movies could hit the market in a single month. Today, however, he said the numbers have dropped, with filmmakers struggling to even produce half of that due to financial challenges. It is unwise for, so according to Adjetey Anang, money has become one of the biggest stumbling blocks for the industry because many investors are hesitant to pump funds into movie projects because the returns are often too little. He pointed out that even after filmmakers manage to finish production, sharing revenue with cinema outlets like Silverbird leaves them with little profit. We are still producing films, but it's not as robust as it once was. In the past, let's say we used to churn out around 15 movies in a month, but now we only manage to produce half of that due to lack of capital. Many people find that after covering production costs, the returns from the movies are minimal. There are also challenges such as sharing proceeds with Silverbird Cinema. If we had more venues available for premiering movies, it could benefit our industry, as healthy competition is important, he said. He subsequently called for the establishment of more movie centers across the country to give filmmakers more options to premiere their work. This, he explained, would not only reduce the monopoly of big cinema chains, but also create healthy competition and open up more opportunities for producers. Adjetey Anang believes money alone cannot fix everything. He noted that Ghanaian filmmakers must also raise the bar when it comes to quality. He urged script writers to produce quality and intriguing stories, especially now that digital platforms can put Ghanaian movies in front of international viewers almost instantly. We need to focus on improving the quality of our work by putting more research into our projects. Once something is released, it can reach a global audience. These are some of the challenges that make it seem like the industry is struggling, but we are still pushing, he said. And so that is the video when he was interviewed. Yeah. So I'll leave the article in the description section so that if you want to take a look at it, you can do so. So yeah, I mean, we've been having these conversations for a long time, time and time again, the conversation of whether we even have an industry at all keeps coming up. And then for those who accept that there is an industry, but it doesn't have the necessary structures to keep it afloat the way we would have wanted, we talk about that, and we do also chime in with our thoughts on the issue. At the beginning of this year, in particular, when I was starting this, starting this particular YouTube channel, I did state the fact that, yes, we have an industry, but I mean, not just myself, but other people have said same that we have a fractured industry because it looks like we have pockets of the industry working or functioning well, but in terms of it being well-woven and well-oiled industry, that is what we are struggling with. As it stands now, a few movies are being released in the cinemas, and even when they do not stay longer than the usual expected theatrical window that maybe a movie can. in Hollywood, the normal theatrical window prior to the pandemic was 90 days, but during the pandemic, they trained audiences to stay at home and watch television on streaming services. So it did actually, went against them, where now the theatrical window for films in cinemas worldwide, or particularly in the US, it's 45 days. However, in Ghana, there isn't anything specific like that, considering the fact that the cinemas are literally scanty. They are literally few, and it's only located mainly in Accra, and maybe a few scattered around in Kumasi and other places. However, the challenge of distribution is not even that alone, but also one of the main challenges, because um, assuming we have a cinema each in every constituency in Ghana, you're talking about over 200 cinemas. And I think that would have gone a long way, because one of the things with the theatrical business or the film business is that most films would make their most of their monies back, and possibly break even in either the opening weekend or perhaps the second week, at most the third week. So you need the 3 weekends to make most of your money back. Otherwise, the likelihood of you losing steam is very, very high. And unfortunately, because we don't have enough cinemas, it creates the problem of filmmakers recouping their money back. And I'm sure most Ghanaian filmmakers never recoup their monies back. Never. And that is a challenge, because we don't have adequate cinemas to get that done. Let me reiterate what I've been saying over the couple of episodes that I've chanced upon articles like this. The major problems is because of the non-existence, or perhaps not really functioning well, of these 3 factors I always want to number. The first one has to do with policy. We have some policies in this nation, one of which now we keep battling with, and that has to do with, piracy. And I know there are anti-piracy, there are laws or policies against such. However, sometimes the implementation becomes a big problem, knowing that you have to, the governing body the Copyright Society or office have to monitor the screens and ensure that no TV station is flouting the rules. So that's just one of them. But beyond that, there are so many things, that policies that can be put in place that can help filmmakers, make that happen. And I think one of the things is to be able to incentivize investors to go into the the theatrical business, where they can put up enough theaters across the country, so that filmmakers can indeed recoup their money in the opening weekends or the first 3 weekends before the steam of the movie, fizzles out. So that is policy is a key factor, from tax incentives for production to get their money's worth or their investment's worth, to fair competition, where perhaps our films will get the needed time slots in cinemas, as against foreign films always trooping into the country and competing with ours. I remember I did an article about, is it Kenya or Uganda, where unfortunately for them, Bollywood films have dominated their cinemas so much so that their local films don't even have enough time space in the cinemas to be viewed. And I say this, one of the major challenges is that a lot of Indian expatriates are in the country. So it does point out to the fact. And I did say at the time that the challenge would be that perhaps the indigenes themselves don't go to cinema as compared to the Indian population there. So it does make sense to an extent. However, policies can help prevent some of these challenges when they are enforced, not just passed, but enforced. And that is something I think we are facing in the country. But beyond that, I like what he did say. Aside policy, you are talking about also infrastructure. And infrastructure, we do not have enough, cinemas. We do not have enough institutions and organizations that can keep this going. And we need to have film funding agencies, but we do not have that. And also data, and data as a result of films, while films are performing, how many people are in the industry, and a whole lot. But one of the things he also did highlight, and I was excited about, is the fact that we need to uplift the quality of our films in terms of from the scripts, from the stories itself to the production, because you cannot build a skyscraper with an architectural plan of just a one-bedroom house. It doesn't correlate. So to be able to build a skyscraper, you need to make sure that your plan do align with the vision or dream you have. And that would also be dependent on the funding. But the fact that he did state that productions can be short, and definitely it needs money to be short, but it's not always about the money. Sometimes it starts from a quality story. And that is one thing that I think even the legendary David Dontor have stressed in an interview, that it looks like we lack quality script writers in the country. And that is a challenge. I'm sure there are quality script writers around, but maybe the scope of the film being written may demand more financing. But I think also the challenge we have is that our producers expanding their wings or tentacles to reach out and network with script writers who are outside their own circles. And I think that is where perhaps producers have to now think outside the box. Maybe if we have a properly functioning guilds like the Writers Guild and all the Producers Guilds and all that's working properly, we could network properly and see the works of people. They don't have to be necessarily your friend, but if they are that good in a particular genre, or if they are good overboard, they can help churn out a script that would be worthy of a quality production. And those are things that perhaps we need to look at. I think writers' rooms ought to be created for television productions, because, and you see, the challenge has always been is that most productions, because of the challenge of funding, even when the script may not be up to par, we are in a haste to shoot it and get it done with. And I can understand that the challenge, especially when you've gone for loans and you are on a time bound to ensure that you finish the production, get it into the cinemas to be watched, to get your revenue back and pay the debtors. I can understand all that, but it won't do the film good if the quality of story is not up to par and will result in poor box office receipts. So there is the need for us to really pay attention to the stories we are telling, not just any story, but the quality of story. And also there is also the necessity to ensure that producers choose the best directors to helm projects. The fact that one producer always work with one director doesn't mean that producer should always choose that director for every material they get. Then there needs to be the choosing or aligning the right project with the right directors. Some directors may be good with a particular genre, but may not be good in another. So there are so many things that we don't consider. We have a straitjacket policy that once I'm working with you, I need to work with you throughout, So if I get a production or a script that is very good, but it's not within your terrain, you do it. Yes, that's not to say that directors don't have to be versatile. Yes, they can be versatile, but some directors may not necessarily be good for certain projects. And I think that we need to change our mindset with regards to how we do production in the country. We may not have the money, but I like what Adjetey Anang said. We have the content, we have the people. So we need to think differently. Let's borrow a leaf from Hollywood. Let's borrow a leaf from Bollywood. Let's borrow a leaf from the best film industries and the best filmmakers. It's about time we expand our network of people we know. It's about time we elevate our project. Let's not just produce as usual, do things as usual. If it means even reducing the cast just to cut down the budget and produce the best of a film is better than to have an ensemble and still not be able to deliver in terms of story-wise, blocking, camera works, and all that. So there's a lot that there's a lot that we can do to uplift, the industry back to the golden days that Adjetey Anang was talking about. And it is not just one aspect. It has to do with everything. We need to overhaul the entire system, the entire industry, and make things work. And it starts from us, the filmmakers. Also, as individuals, we need to hone our skills to another level altogether. We can't resort to the old ways anymore because we live in a global village where even in our own turf, even in our own country, even in our own cinemas, we are competing with other foreign productions. And therefore, I remember seeing a quote that Chris Arthur said in an article that said that the Ghanaian audience know quality now, so you can't just trick them. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but you can't expect them to not have a good taste in movies. They do, the audience do. So if your film is not up to par, it will dwindle in box office receipts. And that is something we need to pay close attention to. We can never say enough in regards to how our industry is not performing. There's a lot that has to be done. And I think, thankfully, we now have a National Film Authority body. We also have a censorship body, a censorship board. We have all these bodies that exist, the guilds and all that. We need to sit down and retool our thinking, retool the structures and the system, and get to work. We have to be deliberate in our efforts. We need to make films that competes on the global stage because we are part of the global community. And what worked some time back in the local level will never, ever, ever compete, even the local level now. And what is working now at the local level should be quality enough to compete on the global stage. There are a lot of Ghanaian films that are competing in film festivals, and we even are now submitting films to be nominated in the foreign is it language category or the foreign film category, international film category at the Oscars. We can't present a film if it's not of top-notch quality. It shouldn't just be good, but it should be of top-notch quality, and that alone can help attract the needed investors into the country to help build the industry the way we want to. I mean, if I keep on talking about this, there will be no end to the stream. And unfortunately, my time is far spent and past. So this sums up my third story for the day. What do you think about what Adjetey Anang has said with regards to the industry, that we have the talent and we have the content? We just have to, upgrade certain things. And what do you think about the comments that he said? And whatever you think about this, please leave them in the comment section down below. So all too soon, I've come to an end of this live stream. Once again, I'd like to apologize to my audio not performing well at the very beginning of the show. And it has been resolved. I pray that it doesn't repeat itself next time. And thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. I appreciate you for joining me for the live stream. And I'll be coming your way again tomorrow with another exciting episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Utu, and I'll see you soon.